This episode of ToC Presents Get to Know is sponsored by Manhattan, technology that moves life and commerce forward. They connect over 2 billion people to over 20 billion consumer choices. They are leaders in supply chain commerce. Manhattan. Hello, I'm Mark Lawson, Director of Technology for Technologists of Color. We've got a great guest today. They're going to be telling us about their journey into the technology field.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cedric Smith. I am a senior design lead at Manhattan Associates. I've been with the company for 24 and a half years. Started off in research and development and then moved into customer support. Mainly, I work on projects and upgrades for our warehouse management solution. And I'm glad to be here today.
And we're very happy to have you.
Sure.
So if you could, kind of give us a background on what led you here.
Okay. So background, I'm originally from New York, from Long Island, New York, a small town called Roosevelt, it's 1 square mile. And not much in that town other than good people. At the time, there's been some development since I left, but at the time we didn't even have a McDonald's or anything like that. It was a really small town. And must have been maybe about 8 or 9. And my sister's friend had a little brother, and he owned a Texas Instrument TRS-80 color computer too. And I went to visit one day, and he was showing me this program he was working on, some game he was creating. And when he was finished with the coding part of it, I was fascinated because I was really into video games at the time, but to see someone actually create something and have the control over what the game was going to do just blew my mind. And I knew at that moment I had to figure out how to do this. And so growing up, my family is originally from Jamaica. I was the first one born here in the U.S. And let's just say resources weren't necessarily abundant growing up. We were never did without, but we didn't have an excess. And that's, of course, computers were pretty expensive at that time. But I kind of just kept wearing on my dad saying, this is the only thing I want. If it's a birthday, Christmas, whatever, I only want this one thing, this computer. And it just so happened that Radio Shack was kind of like a store that he went to often. So it was not a foreign thing for him to be in that store. So if he was going to get something for me from the store that he was already going to, it was an extra advantage for me. And so that Christmas came, and I under the tree was a trash 80. And I started coding from there. I just learned how to program in BASIC, and then just kept learning and learning. I always loved to learn, and I would just read as much as I could about it. We didn't have internet per se, so I would spend time in the library just trying to learn different things about computers. But then when I got to high school, I didn't think I wanted to have a career in it. It was more of a hobby, things with just playing around with friends in the neighborhood. But then I had a professor at a mechanical engineering class, and my professor, Mr. Stillman, he would use the computer to solve complex equations that we were using to test different stress limits and things of different materials. And when I was doing my calculations by hand, and then he would do it in the computer and have the answer so much quicker than me, I was, again, fascinated. Like, how could you do this that quickly when it takes me so much time? He's like, well, I wrote a program to do it. And so it's like, oh, okay, so there's much more to computers than just games. And so from then, I kind of got into it. I didn't necessarily think I was going to major in it. And my dad said to me, what do you want to do in college? And I told him, I was like, maybe psychology or something. I like to help people. He's like, well, what are you going to do with that? I was like, oh, no, maybe teach or something. He's like, whatever you do something where when you're finished with your degree in education, you don't have to beg for a job. You want people to be looking for you and the demand for your services, for things that you can offer. And I said, well, I really like computers, and it's a hot thing. So I switched and decided to go into major in computers. I started off at the University of Tampa, and I loved the school there. It was great, but I didn't care for life outside of school. Coming from New York, where everything is open all the time, and then going to Tampa, where things were closing at 5 and 6 p.m. And it was a little bit of a challenge. And then being that far away from home in Florida, from New York, was a little bit of a challenge. But I had a good friend of mine who was a year behind me in school, and he was going to Morehouse. And we were talking that winter break when I was home for the holidays. And I said, okay, if you get in, then I'll transfer, and then we can roommate. And he got in, And the next year I transferred and ended up getting my computer science degree from Morehouse. The thing that people always find fascinating about me getting a degree from Morehouse, though, was that I didn't.
Technologists of Color strives to provide a growth platform for African Americans in the technology industry. We help you enter the industry and nurture your career goals. Our core programs focus on connecting, informing, teaching, and collaborating. If you are looking for a community to take your career to the next level, join Technologists of Color. Find us at techsofcolor.org.
People always find fascinating about me getting a degree from Morehouse, though, was that I didn't own a computer the whole time I was a student. I,
Really?
yeah, I
Really?
was a computer
Okay.
science major with no computer, but
Okay.
I had work study, and so I worked in the computer labs, and so that was what allowed me to actually complete the degree without owning a computer. And then I had a roommate my senior year when it was really apparent that I had to do things outside of the lab because I was working there. I couldn't necessarily always do my work while I was working, but one of my roommates in college named John, he had a computer and he would have to work after school. And so that period of time between while he was at work after classes, I was able to use his computer to do my assignments. And then when he got home, I would just have to get off the computer and it's his again because he had to do his assignments as well because he was also a computer science major. And we're still good friends to this day. I actually spoke with him yesterday. We communicated. Um, but yeah, it's challenging to um, I guess the main thing is it doesn't matter if you have it or not, right? If you really want to do something, do it. Put forth the effort to do it. And that's been kind of like my the thing that I keep in mind all the time. Things can be difficult, sure, but if you have the right support, and I've always had excellent support around me. I have family and friends who believed in me, even if I didn't believe myself, they would encourage me and always want me to do the things that are correct. Um, there was some times in the past, maybe some influences may not have been as, I don't know the proper word to say in this PC world.
Constructive?
Constructive. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, yeah,
They were not the most constructive people. And
yeah.
I didn't tend to really gravitate toward them, but occasionally I would find myself with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people who would be like, you sure you want to hang with them? You sure, aren't you supposed to be doing these things instead? And I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Let me get back on track. And it was a great experience being at Morehouse. And probably the most profound thing in all of my years at Morehouse, the 4 years I was there,
Mm-hmm.
I was really blessed to join an organization, a rites of passage organization called Ndugu and Nzinga. Ndugu for the men and Nzinga for the women. And in this rites of passage, we practice principles, and these principles are what we use to guide our lives in every day. And we teach them to it's a let's say to grow people up, like with good character, from boys to men, from girls to women, and just to know that in everything that you do, you matter, you're important. It's vital that we have everyone's voice. You get a chance to we do different practices that allow us to grow and to share with people knowledge as well as our time and resources and things to make sure that people can live the best lives possible while we're here. And as a result of that, that process that I went through, it's similar in some ways to how people go through the Greek organizations. It's similar in some fashions. But one of the best things that happened to me, so in that is really odd. I had this assignment where for a certain period of time, I couldn't cut my hair. So right now you see it shaved, and it's usually not the way things are. Usually a full beard and a lot of hair and everything. But at that time, it was my senior year, and doing interviews with different companies, trying to get internships, trying to get jobs and things. And we had a career fair, and Goldman Sachs came to Morehouse. They were recruiting heavily at Morehouse at the time anyway, but I never really knew anything about them. I didn't know much about stock market, that kind of thing. But one of my advisors and my professors were saying, you should just check it out and see what they have. So I went and I interviewed with them, but of course, Wall Street is kind of like the suit and tie and the stereotype and the clean shave and everything. And here I come, this guy looking like one of one of the administrators used to say, I look like a refugee that just got off a boat. I was like, well, I mean, it's not going to be like this forever. It's just this period of time while I'm going through this this journey for rites of passage. But she would, just tease me, lovingly teasing me though. But on the surface, that's not what Wall Street's looking for. But what they really were impressed with, and what really got them and I guess kind of influenced them to take a chance on me was not just that my grades were good. It's that the character that I was explaining to them about the journey that I went through, the rites of passage process, and those things that we felt were important. The principles are things that Goldman Sachs held in high regard, and things that they were looking for in young people to join the organization. And I got the offer there from them, and went to work on Wall Street for a year, and that was quite an experience.
If you enjoyed this content and want more like it, join our community. Visit technologiesofcolor.org and select newsletter from the menu. We keep you in the know about in-person and virtual events intended